Welcome to another edition of CEOs You Should Know, powered by iHeartMedia. This morning, we're here with Brian Riley, co-founder, CEO of Guardian Bikes. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks.
Made the trek all the way in from
Indiana.
Indiana.
Yep.
So welcome. How long are you in New York for?
Got in last night, leaving today. So
there you
in
go.
and out.
Brian, it's a pleasure to have you. We were catching up offline a little bit, just in terms of what you do with your company and how you're impacting consumers across the country. We're thrilled to have you. I want to know, kind of just to open things up, what inspired you to start Guardian Bikes, and how did you make that initial spark to evolve your company and your mission with the company?
Yeah, it's been an interesting entrepreneurial journey. I started the company a little over 15 years ago, and actually started it not as a bike company.
Yeah.
Started with a new type of innovation for a bicycle brake. And the inspiration behind that was I had a family member get in a really serious head over handlebar accident. That's where you kind of grab your front brake too hard and you flip yourself over the handlebars.
Right.
And so he ended up breaking his neck, and it was kind of this traumatic experience that my family went through. So I wanted to work on a new type of bicycle braking system that would prevent that. And ultimately, got involved in creating something that's almost like an anti-lock braking system, but for bikes. And it's a kind of a simple mechanical way to do it. So initially I was trying to sell that braking system. We called it SureStop.
Yep.
Trying to sell that braking system into existing bike companies. Did that for the first 4 or 5 years of the business, and then eventually evolved the business into just deciding, we just want to do our own bikes and really control everything and make an overall safer bike.
Yeah.
And that's how Guardian Bikes was born. So today, all of our Guardian Bikes feature this SureStop brake technology, but we've kind of built a different type of bike company and kind of control a lot of the product aspects, do it all direct consumer.
Yeah.
And we've built a factory in the US, and we just kind of have built a bike company to compete in a whole different way.
That's great. Brian, what was that aha moment in creating the SureStop braking system? Like, where were you when you thought about it? And you talked a lot about the accident, which of course gave you the confidence to go out and do something. But when was that moment for you?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I started this all so young. I was still in college.
Yeah.
I was actually studying finance and entrepreneurship. So like, I wasn't. I knew I wanted to eventually do something entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
and I was constantly kind of thinking about what problem I could help solve. And I kept coming back to this accident and thinking like, so there's analog brake systems for motorcycles, for cars. Like, why hasn't somebody solved this for bikes? And ultimately got involved in, just started with a prototype, got a prototype working, made more prototypes, kind of refined the system over time. And this is all while I was in college. So I'd say the aha moment was just reflecting on, how I could add value to the world in some way, and wanting to do something entrepreneurial and having this problem be something that was fresh on my mind.
Wow. Ambition, innovation. It sounds like you're chock full of it, starting as early as college, and now you said 15 years, I think, with Guardian. How do you foster that culture within your team and challenge people to be ambitious and share in that same vision of bike safety while manufacturing and competing with large companies that are out there?
Yeah, I think it does start from the top down, and just kind of setting cultural expectations of saying like, hey, we're not afraid to try new things and think outside of the box. And that's often kind of a big picture idea, but when you take that down to the ground level, what does that mean? That means like, it's okay to try something. And that braking system is a perfect idea, or perfect example of, it just all starts with a prototype. Like, you have an idea, make a prototype, see if you can get the prototype to work. Start somewhere, and then the first prototype's never right. And then you go to the second and the third. That SureStop braking system is probably on its 50th version, so
Yep.
Everything kind of starts in bite-sized pieces. That's just kind of how innovation works.
Yep.
But just having a culture willing to take that first step and not be afraid to try something new, and not be afraid to have those early failures, is a huge part of the expectation of just being a part of Guardian Bikes, and being willing to try new things, and being willing to have some failures along the way.
That's great. We're here with Brian Riley, co-founder, CEO of Guardian Bikes, CEOs You Should Know, powered by iHeartMedia. Brian, you talked a lot about innovation, ambition, trial and error, not being afraid to make a mistake and whatnot. What are some big challenges within the industry and, manufacturing bicycles and how you're competing in the U.S., but really globally now as well.
Yeah. So, like I said, the journey started with trying to sell a brake system into existing bike companies. So I got to learn a lot about the industry and how it works and how everything's set up from the channels of distribution to how the whole supply chain works. And so one of the really interesting things is it's a supply chain that's kind of completely dominated by China at this point. So the whole entire supply chain for parts and bikes and everything, it's all sort of based in China. And the standard model is to partner with a big Chinese OEM. And you spec a bike and you design a bike, but you have them build it for you and you import that bike in a box, into the United States and you sell it. So with that model, there's issues that happen with just the products themselves and just the way that these businesses work. There's not a lot of innovation that really takes place because they're so far from the making of the thing. They also don't have a lot of control over just the setup and the safety and the quality of every single bike because they don't control the manufacturing. So for us, a big part of trying to be disruptive was to say, can we build a truly vertically integrated company where we control everything from our own factory floor all the way to the customer's door? And that's really allowed us to deliver on, an overall better, safer quality bike at a great price point that's made in the USA. And we're the only U.S. bike factory that's churning out bikes in the USA. So it's a really interesting model when you can kind of combine a direct consumer model with vertical integration and controlling the factory. But that's a big part of how we deliver the experience that we do to consumers.
So the only U.S. bike company manufactured here in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean there are very small kind of mom and pop type, high end frame makers and stuff like that, but Guardian turns out hundreds of thousands of bikes out of its factory in Indiana. We're the only scaled manufacturer.
It's incredible. And how many employees are part of the company?
About 400.
400. That's amazing. What's the long-term vision for Guardian, keeping it here in the U.S.? And what's the next step for the company?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of how I think about Guardian is we have the product itself, which is our bikes, and then we kind of have the product that builds the product, which is our factory. And right now, a lot of the focus is just continuous innovation in the product that builds the product. So making this factory, more advanced, more automation, doing things better and better so that we can just churn out affordable, safe, quality bikes that people love, at greater and greater levels of scale. The neat thing about the market that we're in is, nearly every family buys a kid's bike or multiple kids' bikes, along the journey of their family growing. So there's a lot of volume to it, and we're still a pretty small part of the overall market. So the vision for Guardian is just, continuing to take market share and grow into millions of bikes over time, all coming out of Indiana and serving families all over the country.
How does the American family learn about you?
Yeah, we it's interesting. A huge part of our business is actually driven through word of mouth. So we get we deliver on a great product experience. People have a great experience with it. It's used out in neighborhoods. So people, one kid has one, his friend sees one and likes it, or parents talk to each other at the park. So it's a product that's used out in the world. A lot of word of mouth. And then of course we do kind of the full menu of kind of direct consumer style advertising. So a lot on Facebook and Google, Instagram, podcasts, connected TV, direct mail. So we do a lot of advertising and we have to, because we're not in stores. So 100% of our product is sold through guardianbikes.com. And so to do that, you got to be really good at the advertising, but you also have to have a great product that just kind of
speaks for itself.
Yeah. And it has that word of mouth tailwind.
Is there a plan to bring it to retail?
We're thinking about it. We're contemplating whether we want to do owned retail or pop-up shops and that sort of thing, or have some kind of model where we partner with some existing retailers. The interesting thing is we've built the whole entire business to deliver on a perfectly 99% assembled, perfectly set up bike direct to your door, and we deliver anywhere in 1 to 2 days. So the whole entire model has been built off of this direct to your door kind of model. So I think there's really interesting opportunities to partner in the physical world in a way where you have more of a showroom type of experience, and you can test ride a bike, and then you can transact in the store and just get one delivered to your door the next day.
Maybe we'll see you here in New York City at some point.
Yeah.
As I'm listening to you, Brian, you got a lot of passion, and I'm sure you emphatically instill passion in the folks that work with you, the 400 folks that are your employees. Thinking about other founders and other aspiring entrepreneurs, what kind of advice would you give to them, maybe in their early stages of their concept, of their idea, maybe even folks that are listening that are in college thinking about a prototype?
Yeah, I think as you can kind of tell from my story, it's not like a direct line of like exactly how you think things will turn out and when you think they'll turn out that way. So in my case, started with this braking system, totally thinking that the business would evolve into selling that braking system into lots of bike companies and getting on millions of bikes with the braking system, but not doing our own bikes.
Right.
And so, I think the biggest advice is you got to start with something that you actually care about, because you're going to run into bumps in the road all along the way. And if you really, care about what you're trying to bring into the world, you're going to be willing to kind of just find the way eventually.
Yeah.
And you also got to be willing to kind of evolve and pivot, but also balance that with like holding some kind of vision of like what you actually want to create. So like the Guardian Bikes pivot for us was, in retrospect was great, but when I started, I would have never imagined Guardian Bikes and being a bike company and having a bike factory and all that kind of stuff. So I think it just, for entrepreneurs, perseverance, having something you care about so that you can kind of carry through that perseverance, and being willing to just try new things and pivot and kind of find your way along the journey, because it's always going to be different than you think, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking, you talked about, I think you said in college you were studying finance and entrepreneur.
Yep.
What would have been the other path for you, Brian? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I when I was going to college, I was going to study mechanical engineering, and I always liked kind of physics and engineering stuff in high school, and I actually went to like a pretty engineering focused college, but I ended up doing finance and entrepreneurship because I also really like the business side. Well, that's like an interesting mix of interests, because a lot of like what I do today, I didn't study engineering, but I also feel like I'm an engineer at this point. Like I've gotten so involved in product development and factory development and all that kind of stuff. So I think, the other path might have been some kind of engineering thing.
Right.
But I think the biggest thing with entrepreneurship generally is like you kind of find the mix of things that you're naturally good at, and apply those to trying to create value. And that's what I've done with Guardian.
That's fantastic. Again, we're here with Brian Riley, co-founder and CEO of Guardian Bikes on CEOs You Should Know. It's been a pleasure chatting and learning about the business and about you, Brian. What's next for Guardian Bikes? Anything we're going to see that you could share with us today for the holiday season or as we move into 2026?
Yeah, I mean, the holiday season is always big for us. So we've got a lot of great offerings for the holiday. We got actually our Black Friday deal is already kind of running on the site. And then as we get into next year and years following, we're going to be expanding the product line. We're going to be coming out with new accessories and new things that kind of complement the whole Guardian experience.
Yeah.
So, excited for anybody that hasn't heard about us to check us out and be a part of the brand family. And we're looking forward to, serving them along the way.
Yeah. Brian, since you had mentioned it, how can we find you? Can you just share maybe your website and your socials for our folks that are listening?
Yep. GuardianBikes.com.
Yep.
It's how you find us online, and then Guardian Bikes across all the socials. We're really active on Instagram, TikTok, really every social channel. So just searching Guardian Bikes and finding us there.
And all purchases are direct to consumer right through the website.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. What's one thing that you might want to leave our audience that's tuning in with about your mission, and thinking about your team and the vision that you have, that you share with your team for Guardian?
Yeah, I mean, I think for people watching and kind of understanding this journey, we've done a lot of things that everybody told me and told the team that was, impossible. Like when it started with the braking system, everybody thought like, well, like, this would have been created before if it's going to be a thing, or,
Yeah.
And we kind of broke through that. I can't tell you how many people say that it's impossible to make things in the United States and do it competitively. We've really proven that you can do that with the U.S. factory and applying the right technology and the right kind of innovation to it. So I think, just don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. And I think Guardian Bikes is an example that you can really challenge the status quo and you can do it well.
Yeah. Before we started and we went on tape here, I was telling you I'm a father of 3, 11, 9, and 7. And my wife and I are really, we have no intelligence. I feel like when we're making that process of choosing a bike, we're kind of on a shopper site and we're like, hey, that looks cool, or she'll like that basket or that color's cool. What are some defining things that a parent should be looking into when thinking about purchasing a bike for their child?
Yeah, I mean, a big part of it is when a kid's first learning to ride. That's a lot of times when parents have the most questions. Like, okay, I need to teach my child how to ride. How do I do that? Do I use training wheels? Is there like a better way or to do it, or things like that? So a big thing that Guardian promotes is learn to ride in one day. So our bikes, we lead with safety, but they're so safe and so quality. They're also easy to ride, easy to learn on. They're lightweight. The geometry's right. And so in that learning to ride phase, I think, looking for a brand that's going to be really easy to learn how to ride on, which Guardian specializes in that. And then looking at ways, a lot of kids learn to ride with training wheels still.
Yep.
A better way is just to basically take the pedals off, put the seat all the way down, and start using it as a balance bike first.
Right.
So just kind of kick around and learn how to balance. That really teaches you the right balance really quick. And then you can put the pedals on, and a lot of kids just take off right away. So that's a major shortcut that a lot of parents don't yet understand, is that there's actually a better way to learn than the standard training wheel method. With Guardian, we have bikes with training wheels too, so you can do either way. But I always like to tell parents that, because it's something that most people don't know.
And the website, the socials, are you putting out content that is helpful for parents?
A lot of content. So in that example, you can search like how to learn to ride with Guardian bikes, and you can find YouTube videos, and you can find videos on our site that teach you methods on how to teach your kid how to learn how to ride a bike.
That is so helpful. And I'm sure you challenge your team to think thoughtfully about the content that they're putting out there that could really impact and help parents today, because there's no handbook on, trying to teach a kid how to ride a bike, especially your first kid.
Yep.
Brian, it's been a pleasure. Again, could you just kind of let us know where we can find you?
Yeah. GuardianBikes.com is where you find Guardian Bikes. Guardian Bikes across all the socials. And then if you also want to find me personally, it's the Brian Riley on X, or just Brian Michael Riley on Instagram or LinkedIn.
LinkedIn as well. Great.
Yep.
Brian, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us on See You As You Should Know.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yep.